Welcome to Following on India. Well, at least one of the two test matches going on at the moment bears some resemblance to normality. The first day at Guwahati, South Africa finished 247 for six. A day of attritional cricket, very traditional cricket in many ways, very much the opposite of what happened at the Optus Stadium in Perth. By the way, you can get the verdict from Steve Harmison and John Norman on the regular Following on. They've just recorded an analysis of that extraordinary 2 day game. Well, this test match isn't going to finish in 2 days. In fact, it may well even go to a fourth, maybe even a fifth. I'm Neil Manthorp. I'm alongside Chetan Narula to have a look at South Africa won the toss. That was a very, very good start. That was an important contribution from Temba Bavuma. But I must say that the pitch seemed, dare I say it, quite flat. I mean, I'm sure it will deteriorate quite quickly, but it looked like a pretty good batting surface. And I think that I give the day to India. 4 wickets in the final
Yeah.
session, Chetan. I think they got their noses ahead.
Well, hello, Neil, and hello to all our viewers. Thanks for tuning in once again. Yes, absolutely fantastic day of Test cricket all around. First of all, in Perth, maddening day, and now in Guwahati, some sort of normalcy, as you put it. But yes, it's. I think it's a good pitch to bat on. Day one, South Africa. I would think they would feel that they haven't really made good of the conditions on offer, or the fact that they won the toss and they opted to bat on a day one surface like this. None of their batters scored a half century. Somebody like a Tristan Stubbs, who faced more than 100 deliveries, out for 49. Scoring, he said after the day's play that it wasn't easy scoring. The Indians were bowling really well. We'll speak more about that. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing that none of the South African batters, especially the top six, you look at Markram, 38, Rickelton, 35, 49, 41, 28. None of the top six batters really went on and scored a big one or even crossed a half century, or none of them were really unbeaten at stumps on day one. So I think it's an opportunity lost for South Africa, despite the fact that they won the toss and opted to bat. And talking about the pitch, I think that's an important thing. If this is the kind of pitch that the Indian team management wanted, or that's the kind of pitch that they've been given here, it raises again question marks as to why would they want a pitch like the one that we saw at Eden Gardens, or in Kolkata for the first Test match. So that raises a bit of question mark as to what kind of messaging has gone out to the curators in terms of the pitch preparation. But because let's not be mistaken here. I think it was a good batting surface. At the same time, it was also gripping and giving some assistance to both spacers and spinners. We saw a few deliveries turn, but they were not turning sharply. If you had decent footwork, you could really comprehend the spin, you could play it. I think this is a good subcontinental surface. This is a good Indian Test surface. Again, leaves the question mark why a surface like this was not provided in Kolkata.
It's interesting where we focus on batting errors or credit to the bowlers. I mean, there was some really good persevering bowling. I thought Mohammad Siraj stuck at it, and Jasprit Bumrah
Yeah.
got through 17 overs. Siraj 17.5, taking a wicket in the last over to get rid of Tony DeZorzi. So I'm thinking particularly of Temba Bavuma and Vian Mulder, both of whom are caught at mid-off. And
Yeah.
it looks bad, doesn't it? It's not a great look. Both caught at mid-off. And yet, at the same time, Tristan Stubbs danced down the wicket and hit two straight sixes. So you don't want to be too sort of contrary, saying, well, they were terrific shots, but when you hole out, the difference is that Stubbs really committed. I mean, he's taken a
Yeah.
step and a half down the wicket. He's got to the
Yeah.
pitch of Jadeja and Kuldeep, and he's really committed to the shot. Whereas Bavuma and Mulder have just played from the crease, just hit it to mid-off like they were giving catching practice. But at the same time, Kuldeep, your favourite spinner, if not favourite cricketer, brilliant. Again,
Yes.
three for 48, fabulous stuff. I've got lots of questions on my mind. I'll give you the hardest one first of all. Can you explain the presence of Nitish Kumar Reddy in the Indian team?
We'll come to that in just a bit. But first of all, I think you mentioned the word commitment from Tristan Stubbs. I think when it comes to Test cricket batting today, Saturday, that word commitment really rings out nicely from Perth to Guwahati. You look at the way Travis had batted in that second innings, absolutely phenomenal. He committed to a game plan and destroyed the English bowling attack, which was doing exceedingly well just yesterday. So whether it's a seaming surface or whether it's a spin friendly surface, commitment to your plan obviously is the first, I would say, check box for any batter. And I think Tristan Stubbs did really well over there, as you mentioned. When he was committed to playing his shots, he was absolutely brilliant. He was moving forward using his footwork, that big step. Again, at the end of the day, he said that he prefers batting at number three. I think we touched on that point. I think batting at three would serve Tristan Stubbs and South Africa a lot more because he can express himself. He can play his shots. He can just play according to the situation and not come at number five and say, okay, you know what? The pitch is doing this, the pitch is doing that, the scoreboard pressure, this, that. No, number three, he can exert himself on the game. And I think he tried doing that today. When you talk about somebody like a Temba Bavuma, I thought he was still playing within himself, which is fine when you see the kind of surface we had in Kolkata. But today, I thought he could have committed himself a little bit more in terms of shot making or in terms of scoring. They did fine in terms of scoring in that partnership. But overall, I'm talking about the commitment to the shot selection. Like you mentioned, you're playing it, but you're just giving it to the fielder. You're just chipping it away to mid off or mid on. So in that sense, I think that's where South Africa perhaps lagged a bit today. And Kuldeep Yadav, absolutely brilliant again. Once again, like I said, he is India's number one spinner, irrespective of format. Just look at the way he's bowled to Tristan Stubbs today. Obviously, he's going to loop up few deliveries which are going to be scored off. That's with any spinner because and Kuldeep Yadav is an attacking spinner. He wants to invite the batters to attack him, and that's where he creates the wicket-taking opportunities. But look at the way Stubbs got out to him. He was out really forward, trying to subdue the spin, trying to subdue the bounce, and Kuldeep Yadav just altered his length a bit, just pulled it back so that the batter might be forward. But even then, he gets outfoxed by the delivery. It was a brilliant delivery, a sharp catch taken by KL Rahul to make up for his drop of Jasprit Bumrah earlier on in the day. But Kuldeep Yadav, absolutely smart spinner. And I think it's the smartness of spinners that really comes to the fore in conditions like this. And if you remember, after the first test match, I said India does have the bowling attack to take 20 wickets on surfaces like this. It'll take a little bit more time, but we do have 5 days of test cricket, don't we? So it's a test match of attrition. They will take time, but they will take those 20 wickets. South Africa, I'm not saying they will not take those 20 wickets, but they might just struggle a bit to come to terms with a pitch like this, where there is assistance on offer, but not lottery type assistance as it was in Kolkata. So we'll see what the outcome of this test match is. But I think India on top of conditions, the Indian attack making use of these conditions, the pacers, Siraj you mentioned, bowling at the stumps, and India cutting down the runs, not giving easy scoring opportunities. And that is where South Africa really struggled today to make good on their decision to bat first. And just to add to that selection, you want to talk selection now, Nitish Reddy?
Yeah, go on. I mean, what's he going to bat 8 and bowl 4 overs?
Look, again, I have to, borrow from our podcast last week. What did I say about that number 3 position? I don't want to see it becoming a revolving door. And now look, Sai Sudarshan is in. He should have played the first test match. Now he's in. He's going to probably bat at 3. And then you have the rest of the batting lineup. And then Washington Sundar and Nitish Reddy move down. Akshar Patel has been dropped. So now Washington Sundar is playing as a spin all-rounder. Last test match, he played as a batter. So you are confusing Washington Sundar. You are probably denting his confidence. He was given a spell today. He bowled well within himself, but he was not looking like a wicket-taking bowler on that surface. So sometimes it just meddles with your thinking when you're given different roles and you mess about with the kind of roles that a player can perform. And now 2 test matches, Sai Sudarshan, how will his confidence be after being dropped in the Kolkata test match? He's been given an opportunity here again. So I'm hoping it doesn't affect Sai Sudarshan or Washington Sundar. Nitish Reddy, I think he'll bat lower down the order after Ravindra Jadeja, as has been the case. Or, or just depending on how the situation is, because Gautam Gambhir does like his left-right combination. And then you have Yashasvi Jaiswal, Sai Sudarshan, and Rishabh Pant. It will not be surprising to me if they slot in Nitish Reddy at number 4 in place of Shubman Gill. So you have those left-right, left-right, left-right combinations. What I'm trying to say is it's anybody's guess what is happening with that selection, what is happening with that batting order. I think in Test cricket, your top 6 or at least your top 5 should be really defined in terms of your plans, what you want to do. It should not become a revolving door. Nitish Reddy, yes, because he's come in for the injured Shubman Gill. But that number 3, let's not make it a revolving door. And in fact, South Africa, you can say the same thing about them. Tristan Stubbs at 3, which I think is a good choice. But then Vian Mulder comes down, which again, I think is not that bad a choice. Maybe Senuran Muthusamy could bat higher up than Vian Mulder.
Yeah, I mean, he averages 46 in Test cricket. It's a fairly small sample size. But I haven't finished heaping praise on Kuldeep Yadav just yet.
Yes.
Without
Go
getting
on.
too technical, I mean, so Stubbs was fully committed. I mean, I think the reason number 3 suits him is he doesn't know what to do at number 6 when he doesn't know how to balance attack and defence. And he was paralysed at Eden Gardens, wasn't he? I mean, he made 15 off 60 odd balls and just didn't know where to score a run or even try to score a run. But today he was really committed. He didn't have the pressure of batting with the lower order. And I thought that his shot selection was good. He does have a very sound defence. I mean, he faced 112 balls today. But and he's been trying very hard to play with soft hands. But you can only really do that when you get to the pitch of the ball or if the ball is pitched up. If you end up reaching for it, stretching for it, and you're committed to a defensive shot, that's when you push hard at it because you're stretching. And Kuldeep, with his dip, did exactly that. Confused Stubbs with the length. He ended up pushing for it. And I'm assuming it was the googly. Whereas the leg spinner that got Ryan Rickleton, absolutely perfect, wasn't it? I mean, so Markram and Rickleton, they put on 82 for the first wicket, and they're both, to my mind, got out. Markram will say that he drove at Bumrah, but wasn't really committed. It was the last over before, what would normally be the lunch break. It was the tea break.
Tea break.
But, I just think when you're bowled by Jasprit Bumrah, give him some credit, unless you've dragged a wide one on from outside the off stump. But Markram wasn't fully committed to that. So anyway, and then straight after the tea break, Rickleton gets a brilliant leg spinner from Kuldeep again, which he just edges to slip. So half the South African batsmen were got out, and half, I think, very much committed to their own demise. It just seems to me that India select Nitish Kumar Reddy and then decide what they're going to do with him. Or he might, I mean, you just said, it's not like these are the roles we need filling. These are the players. I mean, they picked Nitish and, it's like, well, if it swings a bit, then, he'll be useful. If there's a right-hand, left-hand combination needed, I just, think that players normally perform at their best when they have a clearly defined role to fill.
Yeah, just to add to that, he was given 4 overs today. Spin was introduced in the 14th over. That was Washington Sundar. Then you had 19th over Kuldeep Yadav coming in. I mentioned last test match as well that Kuldeep Yadav is your first choice spinner. He should be your go-to spinner, not coming in the 19th over. Nitish Reddy has just bowled those 4 overs, given away 21 runs. South Africa made a brilliant start. The opening stand, 82 runs. Technically, they were 82 without loss, with just that last over before tea time when they lost the wicket. So 82 for no loss in the first session is absolutely a brilliant start. Even 82 for 1 for that matter. The session belonged to South Africa after opting to bat. I think scoring was, I think they scored relatively easier in that morning session, given the hardness of the new ball, etc., etc. But my point is, what was the use of bowling Nitish Reddy for those 4 overs? Just because he's playing, just because you have an option. And I don't blame Gautam Gambhir there. I blame Rishabh Pant there. Yes, he is new to the captaincy. He's been the vice captain. He's a stand-in skipper here. But I thought there were some selections or some changes that Rishabh Pant made today that left a lot to be desired. Nitish Reddy being given that ball given that spell being one of them. There were few field placements I thought which were quite odd, especially when Themba Bavuma and Tristan Stubbs' partnership was going on. So yeah, it was quite weird in terms of what Rishabh Pant was trying to do, which I understand. He brings his own way of captaincy, his own way of leadership. But I'm not going to judge him too much on that. But I would just say that some of the decisions today were really weird, really odd. Nitish Reddy bowling that spell, giving five and over away, didn't really make sense. You just bring in Kuldeep Yadav at that particular time. So I think your dog agrees with me.
Sorry, I'm dog sitting while we record this. The thing is, you don't know whether the ball's going to swing. And Nitish is a swing bowler, and his best chance of swinging it is with the new ball. So I guess if you're going to give him a spell to see if it's going to swing, and he suddenly produces a good away swinger to one of the right-handers. So I mean, it didn't look good because
No.
he was a little expensive in those 4 overs and it didn't swing. But I suppose Pant would say, you don't know if it's going to swing until you give your swing bowler an opportunity. So let's throw it forward. There was an element of desperation, I think, about South Africa, and that was
Mm.
desperation to capitalise, having won the toss and batting
Yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think that inhibited them slightly. Um, they've got a guy not out overnight who's got 4 Test 100s. Carl Verreynne may only average
yeah,
30, but he's got 4 Test 100s and he's got a first class average of close to 50. So he's a decent number eight. And 9, 10, 11 also bat.
yeah.
I won't ask you, what's a good total because the answer is always as many as possible in the first innings. But if South Africa got 350, do you think India would? I mean, if they add another 100 and they make about 350, do you think India will be satisfied with that? Would you and confident of going past it?
I think both teams will be happy with that. I mean, they are six down. India would obviously want them to be shot out before 300, ideally within the first hour of play or within first 90 minutes or so. But I think 350 is something, 100 runs with one pair still out there. I think they'll still take it. I think, but 350 for South Africa, they would think to themselves, okay, we might not have had the best day one, but we still got 350 on the board. India will think, okay, you know what? This is a pitch that is playing much better than the Kolkata one. We would back our batters. They bat deep. They have a plethora of all rounders. Their lower order batters all play attacking cricket. So they will back themselves to get past 350. I think 350 would be a decent score or a decent acceptable score for both sides tomorrow. Although India, having taken those 6 wickets, they would want to take those remaining 4 wickets rather quickly, and which is why this partnership, Muthuswamy and Kyle Verreynne, I think that is the crucial one in the context of where this test match goes or where this first innings goes. If India break through early and the new ball is still there, it's just what 1.5 overs old, so or even I think 1 over old because it was taken sometime during the 81st over. So uh, yeah, if India break through early and get those 4 wickets quickly, then obviously they will be very, very pleased with themselves.
I must tell you about Kyle Verreynne. He bats number 5 in domestic cricket for his province, Western Province. And as I said, he's got a first class average of close to 50. He's got 4 Test 100s. Domestically, there's no, there's barely a comparison between Senya and
Mm.
Mutasamy and Kyle Verreynne. But I've known Coach Shukri Conrad for 25 plus years. And it's and Kyle Verreynne he's a redhead and he's pretty fiery,
Yeah.
and he gets quite easily wound up, and dropping him to number 8 by Shukri Conrad is it's twofold. It's saying, don't ever play a shot like you did at Eden Gardens again. And and also, otherwise you're going to find yourself batting at number 8. In fact, you are batting at number 8. Verena will be seething. He has said, he's long stated that he thinks it's a nonsense that more wicketkeepers don't bat in the top 5. He
Mm.
says, look at
Mm.
Rishabh Pant. He has
Mm.
said that he would like to bat at 5
Yeah.
for South
Yeah.
Africa. He's now down at number 8. And I could well be wrong. And certainly, if the ball starts to keep low, he becomes a massive LBW candidate. He's
Yeah,
got he's
yeah.
got a very very flaky looking technique, but somehow I just if knowing him and knowing Shukri Conrad, I just rather suspect he might do something a little bit special tomorrow. And if he does, then I think 400's a good score. I mean, how
Yeah,
much do we think the pitch will deteriorate? We've got no test history to go on. Obviously, it's the first
yeah.
game, but it's a red soil pitch. Will that tends to get they tend to get a bit lower, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, the bounce is not going to be as variable as it was in Kolkata. So, unless and until it just deteriorates completely, the top surface disintegrates, and you start seeing dust puffs. But if you look at the way the pitch has behaved today, the top surface has held rather well. The first session, you could even see that sprinkling of grass. It was shining in the sunlight, which means the surface has been watered over the last 2 3 days, and that's the
Right.
big difference for me. And which is why it's I don't think it's going to disintegrate before, say, day three, towards the second half of day three. I think tomorrow is an excellent day for batting on the surface, probably the best day to bat on this surface, which is why South Africa would want to bat a little deeper, that partnership. And if there's ever a time for Kyle Verreynne to score big runs, I think tomorrow morning is that time. But yeah, India would like to get them out quickly and make use of tomorrow's batting conditions.
I must say, if the Indian top five get in and bat for the length of time that South Africa's top five, and I can't see them throwing it away. I see Jice. Well,
Yeah,
KL Rahul must have been
yeah,
chuckling to himself, looking at guys, batting 100
yeah.
balls and getting out for 40. I think if those two get in, then well, not just them. I mean,
Rishabh Pant.
yeah, yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Jadeja. I mean, he might
yeah.
he might need explosives to get Jadeja out once he if he gets in. So 247 for six. Yeah, I'm going 60-40 India's day.
Yeah, I would agree. 60-40 India's day, those 6 wickets, 4 wickets in the final session. The simple fact that South Africa's top five got starts, none of them made big scores, no 50 plus scores, and there. This is India's day. Yeah,
Righto. Don't forget to tune into the following on podcast to get John Norman and Steve Harmison's views on an extraordinary test match in Perth. Australia now 1-0 up, winning that test match in 2 days. Quite extraordinary. Chetan Narula and me, Neil Manthorp, will be back at the end of day two for a review of the second day of the second test in Guwahati. This is Following on India.